Next on the agenda is a report of the board attorney, Mr. Rulo.
I have an extensive one this evening.
I got to read a letter. This is a letter from the State of New Jersey Department of Education. I believe you all have a copy of this, but it's for the public. Dear Dr. Cirillo, subject matter Palisades Park School District Board Action, Board Members' Actions, OFAC case. The Department of Education Office of Fiscal Accountability and Compliance has completed a review of the process utilized by the Palisades Park Board of Education during the October 21st, 2015 board meeting to appoint Dr. Thomas Matarazzo as replacement board member and a subsequent November 18th, 2015 motion to rescind said appointment. A third and final area of inquiry was a claim of possible nepotism involving board member Dr. Matarazzo and a family member. The OFAC investigation could not substantiate the allegations cited in the complaint. As such, the OFAC file on this matter is closed. The information obtained during the OFAC review is detailed in the attached report. Please provide a copy to each board member. Pursuant to NJAC 6A23A 5.6, the board is required to publicly review and discuss the findings in this report at a public meeting no later than 30 days after receipt of the report. Within 30 days of the public meeting, the board must adopt a resolution certifying that the findings were discussed in the public meeting. A copy of the resolution must be sent to this office within 10 days of adoption by the board. Please direct your response to my attention. Also, the findings of the OFAC investigation shall be posted on the district's website. Should you have any questions, please contact Thomas Martin, Manager Investigation Unit. I got to read the report to you. Investigative summary. On December 4th, the Office of Fiscal Accountability and Compliance was contacted by a resident of Palisades Park School District who expressed concern regarding the Board of Education's appointment of Dr. Thomas Matarazzo as a replacement board member. The resident was concerned the vacancy was filled without the board interviewing other potential candidates. The resident also expressed concern that Dr. Matarazzo should not have voted at the November 18th, 2015 board meeting in relation to a motion to rescind his appointment. Finally, the resident also raised the claim of potential nepotism created by the appointment of Dr. Matarazzo. For purposes of this investigation, the investigator reviewed educational statutes and code, board minutes, video recordings of the board meetings, and interviewed the board secretary. The basis of the OFC determinations are detailed below. The appointment process. At the October 21st board meeting, a member of the board, George Beck, announced that he was resigning from the board effective immediately. The board vice president, Howard Donovan, asked if there were any audience members who were interested in filling the vacant seat. Dr. Matarazzo raised his hand and related that he previously served on the board for approximately 25 years. Dr. Matarazzo chose not to seek re-election in April 2013. After Dr. Matarazzo briefly outlined his credentials, the remaining members of the board, 9-member board, voted unanimously, 8-0, to approve the appointment. Dr. Matarazzo was then sworn in as a board member to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Beck. NJSA 18A 12-15, parentheses, small f, is controlling statute regarding the filling of a vacancy which occurred in this case. Specifically, the statute states in part that a vacancy can be filled, quote, by a majority vote of the remaining members of the board after the vacancy occurs. Conclusion. OFAC investigation did not reveal any violation of educational statute in the board's process used to fill the vacancy created on October 21st by the resignation of Mr. Beck. Second issue, November 2015 motion to rescind. On November 18th, following closed meeting session, board member Paul Kim made a motion to rescind the previous month's appointment of Dr. Matarazzo. According to the November 18th board minutes, Mr. Kim stated he now felt the vote to fill the vacancy occurred without proper public notification of the vacancy and was completed in a rushed manner. Mr. Kim wanted to rescind the appointment, advertise the vacancy, and revisit the appointment at a later date. The board attorney advised that Mr. Kim could make a motion to rescind the appointment. Mr. Kim made the motion to rescind, which was defeated by a 6-2 vote. During the vote, Dr. Matarazzo participated and voted to defeat the motion to rescind his appointment. It should be noted that according to the November 18th board meeting, the board attorney advised Dr. Matarazzo that he could recuse himself from voting on this motion. Nevertheless, Dr. Matarazzo participated in the vote. NJSA 18A 12-3 addresses the issue of removal of a board member from a board. None of the basis for removal set forth in the statute were applicable in the case. That was what they were seeking, was the removal of Dr. Matarazzo. NJSA 1812-15F does not prescribe any specific procedure to fill the vacancy other than the described above. A vacancy can be filled by a majority vote of the remaining members of the board after the vacancy occurs. Conclusion. It is outside the OFAC's jurisdiction to determine if Dr. Matarazzo's participation in the board's November 18, 2015 vote concerning his board membership is a violation of the School Ethics Act. Such a determination is under the jurisdiction of the School Ethics Commission, subsequent to review of the provisions under NJSA 18A12-21 et sec. Should any citizen wish to pursue an SEC complaint, that person should petition the SEC. Alleged nepotism regarding Dr. Matarazzo. Third issue. The resident raised the concern of possible nepotism created by the appointment of Dr. Matarazzo with respect to a relative of his and that relative's continued employment with the district. The OFAC investigation revealed that Dr. Matarazzo's previous service on the board ended in April 2013 when he chose not to seek re-election. In June of 2013, his relative was hired by the district effective September 1st, 2013. Thus, the relative was already employed by the district on October 21st, 2015, when Dr. Matarazzo again became a board member. NJAC 6A23A-6.2 Nepotism Policy, paragraph 2I, sets forth what is the effective timeline that allows, in relevant part, a person employed by the district, the date a relative becomes a school board member, shall not be prohibited from continuing to be employed. Conclusion. Accordingly, the claim of nepotism is unsubstantiated and based on the timeline provision in paragraph 2I of NJAC 6A23A 6.2 as it pertains to Dr. Matarazzo's relative. Submitted by Thomas Martin, the manager of the investigation unit, Investigator Timothy Boney, and approved by Robert Cicchino, Director of Office of Fiscal and Accountability Compliance. This was an anonymous complaint, by the way. It was not a named person in it. We have to do a resolution, and actually I have some for you. So if there's any discussion amongst the board, and you can open it up to the public if they want to have any discussion with regard to this, and then we'll move this resolution if the board so deems it appropriate. So any comments by anybody? Anybody in the public have any comments with regard to this? Nobody's got any comments? Okay. Resolution. Whereas the Board of Education received a letter dated December 22nd, 2015 from Robert Cicchino, Director of Office of Fiscal Accountability and Compliance, Department of Education, State of New Jersey, and whereas the subject matter of the letter was a review of the process utilized by the BOE, Pal Park Board of Ed, at the October 21st meeting, wherein the board appointed Dr. Thomas Matarazzo as a replacement board member, and subsequently, a motion to rescind that appointment made at the November 18, 2015 meeting, and whereas the OFAC also reviewed a claim of nepotism involving Dr. Matarazzo and a family member, and whereas pursuant to NJAC 6A23A 5.6, the board is required to publicly review and discuss the findings of the report by the OFAC at a public meeting and adopt the resolution certifying the findings were discussed accordingly. Whereas the conclusions of the report are as follows. 1, the appointment of Dr. Matarazzo by the board at the October 21st, 2015 meeting was proper and legal and did not violate any educational statute or the board's policies and process. 2, that the participation of Dr. Matarazzo during the motion to rescind his appointment at the November 18th meeting is an issue outside the scope of the OFAC and can be pursued only through the School Ethics Commission. 3, the claim of nepotism against Dr. Matarazzo was unsubstantiated and not a violation of any regulation and/or statute. Now, therefore, be it resolved that based upon the recommendations of the superintendent of school, the board approves and adopts the findings of the letter of December 22nd, 2015, and certifies that a public discussion of the findings of the Office of Fiscal Responsibility and Compliance was taken at the meeting of January 20th, 2016. I really think that there should be at least some kind of comments, because it doesn't even sound like it's a discussion at this point, but I can't compel anybody to speak.
Again, I was absent during the November meeting, but in the October meeting, we took a vote. The vote was unanimous, and Matarazzo was appointed by But unfortunately, I did miss the November meeting.
Okay.
I'll add to that, that at the November meeting, even if Tom would not have voted, we would have still had majority
On a motion to rescind.
Correct.
at the, right.